What's up, everybody? And it's finally here! Season 1 released to an explosive reception, and the time has finally come to document it. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot here today. This is gonna be a big one, folks, so lock in! If you don't know, for the past few months now, every time a new episode of Doctor Who has dropped or there has been an inevitable controversy, I have made it my mission to not allow people's thoughts on the matter to be washed away by the oceans of time. Instead, I have decided, after many afternoons of researching fan opinions in the past, to document the response, the community reaction. It's a community reaction because I think this stuff's important and I want your voices to be heard. So every time people wonder, what were people thinking about at the time? They can go back and they can look at these. And as I said, today we have a doozy because I am going over not only one, but 2 episodes of the new Doctor Who. And not only that, but 2 of the most divisive episodes of Doctor Who that I have ever seen in the show's history. I'm going to go into it in a moment, but this response to not only my videos, but new Doctor Who in general has been out of control. It's been wild. And I have collected more comments than I ever have before. You guys seem to enjoy these videos. I enjoy making them, and so as the season goes on, I will be making one every week. So don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Join the community and leave your own thoughts in the comment section below. But with that said, damn. Can I just talk about this new series for a minute? Doctor Who has received a near unprecedented push in the States recently, and what I believe we are seeing right now is the predictable response to that push. I don't know if you guys remember, but in my recent video where I reviewed the entirety of the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, I talked briefly about why the Americanization of Doctor Who wouldn't work. And my main argument wasn't that it wouldn't work because the British have some intrinsic ownership over Doctor Who. My main argument was that it wouldn't work because Americans as a whole do not like Doctor Who. Play the clip.
In North America, we love Doctor Who, but it is quintessentially British. What would you say is the international appeal of the Doctor?
Sherlock Holmes is quintessentially British. It hasn't done him any harm. So is James Bond. So is Tarzan. I don't think that's a problem at all. And indeed, any attempt to Americanise Doctor Who would be abominated chiefly by the Americans, let's be honest.
I think I should mention, by the way, why Americanized is a negative in the context of Doctor Who. Because I get it. A lot of people from America, they watch Doctor Who, they love Doctor Who. I got a comment on my last video calling me selfish because I think the UK has an ownership of Doctor Who and deserves to see it at a reasonable time, and to an extent I kind of understand where the comment's coming from. It is true, there are a lot of American fans, millions even, I'm sure, but there are also lots of Americans in general. The American market is different to the British market because there are just so many more American people. It's almost unimaginable to people in the UK just how large America is. Our whole country is smaller than one state. So yes, while there are a lot of Americans who like Doctor Who, there are also a lot, and I mean a lot, who don't, because it isn't American. It isn't a part of the American culture. It isn't a typical television show that connects with American audiences. It's not an American show, and a lot of Americans, understandably, don't want to watch a show that's so un-American in its ideals, presentation, etc. And where's my proof? The latest Disney Plus trailer, the one for the new Doctor Who, where the dislikes actually eclipse the likes. And keep in mind, this is for a trailer that I think is pretty good, but Americans, on the whole, reject it, either because they don't like the vibe of it, or because they don't like or because they're stupid. No offense to Americans, but they don't connect with it. So appealing to them just ain't gonna work. I mean, we tried it before with the TV movie. That was great, and still Americans turned it down. There are lots of American fans, do not get me wrong. There are millions, in fact, literally millions. But there are also millions of Americans who do not like it, for many reasons, because Doctor Who is not American. And Americans connect with American things because they're American. It's interesting how the culture dovetails like that. And I think I've been proven thoroughly correct. The backlash towards the new Doctor Who has been swift and precise. Almost like a bunch of YouTubers timed the release of their hate videos in preparation. And it is a little strange to me. I wanted to get that video out, the one I made earlier in the week, because I wanted it to be known where I stood. For it to be known that not only do I like these episodes, not only do I love these new episodes, but actually, from the bottom of my cold, dead fan heart, I genuinely adore these episodes. I thought they were amazing, and there is a reason I wanted that to be known. There is a reason why I wanted that video to be out so quickly, and it's because, and I am not exaggerating when I say this, I have never seen this much hate towards Doctor Who before. I have never seen it. People hate this more than I've ever seen hate before. This is the most. I have never seen this much hate towards Doctor Who before. And this is why having community reaction videos is so important, because if I've been making these videos since 2017, I can show you directly what I'm talking about. But it is a genuine fact that when The Woman Who Fell to Earth came out, with Series 11 in 2018, it was not hated. Hell, I would even go so far to say that within the general fandom, it was pretty well liked. In fact, Series 11 as a whole was received as pretty okay when it first came out, and it was only in the year-long gap between and the years following that fan opinion turned very sour. And it was the same story with Spyfall Part 1. I remember people calling that episode a return to form, people enjoying it when it came out. And even with the Halloween Apocalypse, I remember in that week there was a rather positive perception in the fandom. And so I am not exaggerating. I don't think I can even put into words just how much hatred I have seen towards these two episodes. And the hatred towards this new era of Doctor Who eclipses anything that came before. Even the 60th anniversary, which literally just came out. I remember the Star Beast, this should all be fresh in everyone's minds. I remember the Star Beast came out to a pretty rough reception, but a lot of people still liked it. And if you check back on my poll, it has a reasonable 5% of audiences saying it was bad, which before these two episodes came out was the least popular episode so far. But if you compare that to Space Babies, on my poll, Space Babies had 16%. That's over triple the percentage. And then if you look at The Devil's Chord, that's at 10%. That's double. That is double of the previous lowest rated episode on my polls. And so where is this hate coming from? Well, I do think most of it is the push in the States. Disney's involvement, the constant barrage of adverts towards audiences who were not receptive to it. The Disney Plus trailer having more dislikes than likes was a pretty clear indicator of where this was all going. Don't you worry guys, I am not the type of person to call everyone who dislikes something racist or sexist or etc. I didn't do it with the Chibnall era and I won't do it here. I don't think that there aren't valid things to criticize in that era or this one or any. But after putting my thinking cap on and taking a few quick glances at the state of the internet, it has become obvious to me that Doctor Who has sadly become a battleground for the unfortunate culture war. Blech. I don't even like saying it. Treat this place as a neutral ground, a neutral zone. If you're on either side, you can come here and you can watch the videos, and I won't mention any of that crap. You can just watch the videos. I'm not trying to instigate or rage bait like that. But with that said, I will say a lot of the hate towards Doctor Who isn't actually to do with Doctor Who. It isn't actually to do with the inherent quality or even any specified criticisms towards Doctor Who as a show in general. But instead, a lot of this response is motivated purely by political factors. Looking in the comment section to make this video, I don't think that that statement is even up to interpretation. It just is a fact. It is what it is. A large amount of the hate towards the new Doctor Who is based in political disagreements, which makes the conversation around Doctor Who very messy and unpleasant. Especially because now, with the influx of hate viewers due to Disney's marketing, there are more people than ever screaming at the top of their lungs who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Self-admitted non-fans of the show who will say things like, I can't imagine how bad it is for the actual Doctor Who fans, or while I am not a Doctor Who fan, I can see it was once a place for good storytelling and good writing, trademark, that has now been ruined, or many other vague, unspecific pandering garbage that tries to act as a smokescreen to hide the fact that all of these people are very happily making these videos because it's their job. A lot of people need to realize that these people's careers is based off the next outrage. That's where the check comes from, baby. They will sniff it out and they will pounce, and they don't give a fuck about the shit that they're talking about. They are literally praying that more people will be angry so that they can make more money off their videos. And notice they all jump on the same things at the same time. That's because of of how the algorithm works. It's not a preconceived attack per se, it's not like there's a secret cabal. It's more so that the more people in this community talk about this stuff, the more it circulates by other people's videos being in the recommended section to other people's viewers, and etc, and it leads you all the way into a nice and cozy echo chamber. Because, being real here, I have to be real with you guys know me, DW Fan 91, realest channel on YouTube, 91st fan of all time. You gotta be on some crack cocaine if you're saying that these are some of the worst episodes of the show. They are goddamn good, and we all know it. There is a whole new audience though, of Americans who saw the advert playing on their TV, or on their YouTube, or on billboards or whatever, and thought to themselves, ew. They've never watched Doctor Who before, they maybe know it exists, this new stuff looks not for them because it's not American, and so they are fully primed for the hate mob that has already formed in preparation for the new series dropping. I do think that every single one of Disney's decisions has been specifically designed to feed these content creators, because with their decision to switch to streaming, obviously and predictably, the overnight ratings for Doctor Who fell, because of course they did. It released the night before. I and millions of others watched it when it came out, or in the many hours in the day it was available before it actually ran on BBC One. This resulted in very low viewing figures because everyone's already seen it, and obviously and predictably, these types of channels went and ran with it. It's funny, I actually predicted this in my video. I said the ratings discussion every year is miserable, and it always has been, but with the decision to switch to streaming first, all it's gonna do is make the antis even more annoying. And people in the comment section said there's no way that people would be stupid enough to complain about the viewing figures. Surely everyone would know the context that the show had been broadcast 18 hours before. Nope! You have to realize that a lot of the people who hate Doctor Who aren't necessarily viewers of Doctor Who. In fact, they're very distant. The main demographic for Doctor Who haters are people who are very adjacent to the show, and that they are semi-aware of its existence. Maybe they saw David Tennant when he was the Doctor. They probably didn't watch an episode though. And so when someone comes over to them and says that show is shit now, they just kind of mindlessly accept it and go, yeah. And so when that same person says, and it just got record low ratings, and then they show a picture, they're just gonna nod their heads and go, yeah. Because as I have documented many times in the fandom before, people just kind of mindlessly go along with anything that they see. And I do think when it comes to these channels, when the momentum starts, it's very difficult to stop. These people want to hate it. There is no charitability there. And yes, I'm gonna say it, it's not just one side. There needs to be a stop put to the rage baiting. Stop rage baiting. There are people out there whose whole careers are based around posting about how angry they are that whatever controversy has happened in whatever show. When you make these charged statements, all you are doing is feeding them for the month. It sparks conflict within the fandom, it gives people you hate money. Just don't do it. Rage baiting never works. How many times have I said this, people? This article from the Metro came out saying, white guys, Doctor Who isn't for you. And guess what happened? They got crucified. Because like, obviously you would. How the hell is this productive? How is this helpful? I know what will stop the onslaught of hate videos. More stuff for them to make hate videos about. Oh no, they deleted their Twitter account. What a loss. And then the saddest part is you have Doctor Who fans who are just desperately trying to defend their show. They've been stretched so thin that they're even trying to defend this article. We owe this article nothing. All it's doing is making Doctor Who look bad, because dumbass Americans can't tell the difference between Metro and the BBC. And they think this is an official statement from Doctor Who. By the way, if you somehow did think that these guys have association with Doctor Who, just to clear it up, these guys have no association with Doctor Who. This is just some random person. Like, why even write this, you know what I'm saying? Because it results in videos like this.
The reason journalists like this are making these articles is because Doctor Who has been an absolute clown show for the past 7+ years. Doctor Who, created in 1963, holds the record as the longest-running series in television history. It follows the adventures of the Doctor, a time-travelling alien. What sets the show apart is the Doctor's ability to regenerate into a new form when near death, resulting in 15 actors portraying the role since its inception. Even though the show always had some goofy special effects, it was about good stories, big ideas, and interesting sci-fi adventures. And then the first female Doctor was announced, after 12 male Doctors, and the show saw its biggest decline ever. Now, you would hope, you would think, you would dream that the show, at its lowest point ever, would go back to what made it great. Nope, they sold the show rights to Disney.
And this clip is wrong. But not only is the clip wrong, it also runs on this base assumption which I have seen be all too prevalent surrounding this era and the previous, which is the baseline assumption that despite no actual criticisms being given, despite no proof that the person writing the clip has even watched the episode.
And then the first female doctor was announced, after 12 male doctors, and the show saw its biggest decline ever.
It is simply a given that the moment Doctor Who became a woman, the show went bad. In this clip, they didn't even say, oh, the writing went bad. Nah, they ain't hiding it. The Doctor became a woman.
And then the first female doctor was announced.
Therefore, it went bad. And it's still bad, because now the Doctor's gay. I mean, it's just bad writing, bros. It's really bad writing. Yeah, what I'm thinking... bad writing. It's just the writing's bad. You know what I'm saying? Joe. I said Joe. The writing's bad. I said it to him. I told him his face. Joe, your son's dead. And the writing's bad. Obama. Fortnite balls. Again, I don't want to call anyone out personally. I'm not saying that I dislike anyone personally for making videos complain about stuff. I make videos complain about stuff. There's a gap in the market. These guys are going to fill it. I can't hate. And I do feel it's important to point out that even though I might find some of the rhetoric used in these videos rather annoying or grating, I genuinely do hold no ill will towards anyone who made these videos or anyone who makes these videos or anyone who plans to make these videos. But what I can hate is this really lazy form of criticism built on internal biases and the priming of the audience into an in-group and out-group mentality. You can't even like or dislike the show no more. You gotta turn it into this massive song and dance while screaming a tagline. Cringe! I stopped watching at Peter Capaldi. Cool comment, bro. What do you want, a fucking medal? I hear this all the time, as if the Peter Capaldi era didn't have the absolute worst bottom of the barrel political allegories and metaphors in the show's history. Like, for comparison, the Chibnall era's messaging is like racism is bad. The Capaldi era's political messaging is Muslims are Zygons. People genuinely say, yeah, I like Doctor Who when it was in the Forest of the Night. Yeah, that was my one. This new stuff though, way too childish. Not like Kill the Moon. Every era has dud episodes. Saying you stop watching at an era that's as good as like all the other eras, they copy paste this sentiment as if that gives it value. Twice Upon a Time was a perfect Have any of you even watched Twice Upon a Time? Have you watched that episode? It's shit! It's shit! There's no story, there's no villain. The first Doctor's portrayed as a dumbass sexist asshole, the special effects are garbage, and the Doctor's a porn addict. And this is the episode that's the perfect ending. Even Stephen Moffat doesn't like this episode. Not only is the Doctor Fools obviously far superior as an episode and ending, and should have been the episode where Capaldi regenerates, so is The Woman Who Fell to Earth. If you genuinely think that Twice Upon a Time is better than these two latest episodes that came out, I'm gonna point it off at you. What I'm trying to say is that Doctor Who is under attack right now. I have never seen it be as bad as this. So much mindless hate to levels I have never seen before. This makes the response to the Chibnall era look like playtime. Russell T Davies, if you are watching this, my heart goes out to you. And also pick up the phone, I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Let me into that premiere event, goddammit. The review bombing has been taken to new heights. If you were somehow still taking IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes seriously, these two episodes are now rated in the bottom 5 of the show's history on those websites. So this should be a sign that those websites are wrong. The IMDb reviews have been a meme on the Discord server for months now, so I know all of you in there who are watching right now are gonna get a kick out of that. I should make a video reacting to IMDb's Doctor Who ranking, maybe when the whole season's said and done. It's ironic that next week's episode is set on a battlefield, because that's how it feels being a Doctor Who fan this week. Also, just calling it now, Boom is going to be perfectly fine, but not live up to the astronomical fan expectations. I'll talk about that more as we continue on through the video. Let's get to it! I have rambled long enough. Let's get on to the comments. As I said, I've picked out more comments than I ever have before, with a variety of opinions. And just for the record, I've included many genuine, fair, and valid critiques of the latest episodes. This isn't going to be a puff piece pretending it was all sunshine and roses and everyone liked it just because I liked it. I picked out good comments, you guys. And so here we are, starting with the king, Kyle Reese. If you guys have been looking in the comment sections, you know this guy's goated. Let's see what he's got to say. Okay, first of all, I wasn't expecting a Timeless Child reference in the first 2 minutes, but I love it. The butterfly effect happened the way I thought it would. As for space babies, I think the movement of their mouths when they're speaking looked a little weird. A bogeyman wasn't the most interesting, but that's fine. I'm loving the dynamic between the Doctor and Ruby. The Doctor doing a DNA scan of Ruby at the end was interesting. Overall, it's a good start, 7.5 out of 10. And before I talk about that, they actually left a second comment talking about the Devil's Chord, so I'll talk about that as well. Okay, so overall, I enjoyed this episode. Maestro was a little over the top, but I still liked it. It was interesting that they made the toy maker her father. I thought it might be brother or something, or they can come from the same place. I don't know. I was a little surprised by that. I enjoyed the singing part at the end more than I thought I would. Her mentioning the one who waits at the end was a little random. Susan Twist was a tea lady in this episode. I don't think she'll be in Boom, but I do think she'll be in 73 Yards, and I think she's going to be the 2-part finale, so it looks like she'll be appearing in multiple episodes like I put on my bingo card. By the way, yes guys, all of the members in the Discord server, we've all been comparing our bingo cards. We've all been making bingo cards, and if you guys have as well, feel free to leave what they were in the comments, how many you've ticked off. I'll keep all you guys updated in the next video when we're talking about Boom. But anyway, something I should have put on my bingo card was the first Doctor and Susan reference, and I'm also still enjoying the Doctor and Ruby dynamic. I'll probably have this episode at 7.5, the same as Space Babies. I'll have to rewatch them again to see which is better, but right now I'll say both episodes are a solid 7.5. I think that's where I am as well. I enjoyed both episodes. I think they're both about as good. They're good in different ways, and they're good for different reasons, but I think they're just both really good, solid episodes of Doctor Who. I actually quite like the Bogeyman because A, it's a funny name, and B, I like the idea of there being babies at the top, the Bogeyman in the basement. As they point out in the episode, it's a nice story, it's a children's story, and the way that they integrate that, it's very clever in my opinion. Now of course to some people it might seem childish, but that is because of course Doctor Who is a show meant for children. But specifically about Susan Twist, Susan Twist was in the preview for Boom that we saw in Doctor Who Unleashed, where she is on this drone thing that comes over and like shoots a taser at someone. I felt like Susan Twist is going to be in every single episode. What I find weird is that she wasn't in The Giggle, which means she was in Wild Blue Yonder, and then she was in Church and Ruby Road, and then she's been in every single episode after that. Why wasn't she in The Giggle? Wouldn't have been too hard to put her in the background. But anyway, yes, definitely agree with all of these points. Let's move on to the next one. And here is another from another GOAT in the comment section. Thank you so much for the support that you keep showing the channel. Honestly, you are the GOAT. And honestly, man, thank you. Thanks so much for all the videos, for all your contagious joy and genuine love for Doctor Who. Man, thank you so much, bro. I try. I've avoided spaces like Twitter and Instagram since the releases of the 2 new episodes. That's a smart move. Still not yet having read anyone's opinions on the episodes beside those in the Discord. Love you, fam. Me too, brother. And I gotta say, it's only helped for the better. I'm not the biggest fan of the new episodes right now. I know I'll acclimatize because I always do, and at the end of the day, it's Doctor Who, so I'll always be happy. But I don't like it right now, and I have no proper reason. Every time I think of them, it just feels like it kind of falls flat because, well, it's still brand new Doctor Who, and that can never be bad. I have yet to rewatch the newest episodes, having watched Space Babies and Devil's Chord once each. I definitely felt the tone for Space Babies was very flip-floppy. Did not love the amount of telling there was, not just in the Doctor Who background, but also circumstantial telling in dialogue. And the humour felt weird at times. There was stuff I really enjoyed about it too, like Ruby's full character, the babies themselves, and the Doctor's new personality on full shine. Between the two, I really like the Devil's Chord more for mysteries yet to come revealed with it, and the importance of music shown too. I'm a music head, so it's not much of a shock that that was my favourite message, and the scene where the Beatles were singing about their dog Fred literally made me laugh out loud. And sincerely, again, I love Ruby and the Doctor in this episode, and so don't get me started on Jinx's performance as Maestro. At times the scene felt too melodramatic for me, and it felt like they didn't know their tone for the season, but I can live with that. It's just the beginning. Plot wise, it's all thumbs up from me. Writing, it's debatable. For the most part, what I don't like about it was how it feels like it's pushing for an American audience, as was speculated by us and many fans before its release, and its desire for it to feel ingrained in the story's writings. With some decision, it really feels like the production got multiple notes back from Disney and did not even think twice on backing off from some of their possible ideas. Almost like they immediately gave in to any notes given to them without a little back and forth. From the beginning of this era, I've always acknowledged the best thing that could have happened is to have Disney completely removed from the Doctor Who space. I completely agree. Since the team up, there have been too many things gone sideways, confirmed scene additions to Disney notes, the time change of airing to American preference, changes to classic material which can only make sense if Giant Studio cares about branding, made one change, i.e. Sonic/Davros. I mean, that's just objective fact. And I'm not the biggest fan, but Chuti and Millie are delivering well so far, the characterizations as well, and I can't say I'm not looking forward to the rest of the series because that would be a lie. Thanks again for being a real one, and thank you to you too, my friend. A massive round of applause in the comment section below. I feel like this is the perfect comment that not only encapsulates your thoughts, but I think the thoughts of many other people around the fandom. I've seen a lot of mirroring sentiments to this, that there's just something that doesn't seem quite right. Now, I personally really do like the episodes, I really do. But having heard this same thought from so many people around the fandom, I kind of get it. And I do think that that is partially to do with Disney. I do feel that the worst part of both episodes was the very start of the Space Babies, where the Doctor gives a massive trauma dump onto to his new best friend saying, all my people died. They died. He literally screams it at her. If that was me, that situation, I'd be like, damn. I didn't ask. But outside of that, I think things pretty much get a move on. Those are my main problems with it. Okay, this is a really selfish thing, but I liked how when I was reading interviews and when I first watched The Church on Ruby Road, I noticed the parallel between the Doctor and Ruby and that they're both orphans, and it's like a subtle reference to the Timeless Child and all of that. I saw that for myself and I was like, oh, that's really cool, Rusty Davies. I really like that. And then he confirmed it in the interviews. I was like, hell yeah, I caught it, man. And then in Space Babies, I kind of assumed it was going to be like a subtle background thing. They literally say to the audience's face, there's a connection here between me and Ruby because we're both orphans. And it's like, I would have gotten it. There are some hand-holdy moments, some patronizing edits, some patronizing lines of dialogue. I do think these were probably added at the behest of Disney, probably added because they're like, well, we're introducing it to a new American audience. They need a bit of hand-holding. Add in these scenes. And honestly, it does feel weird switching from the Chibnall era to this era. I feel like having that little bouncing period in between with the 60th anniversary, while I don't really like the 14th Doctor. I mean, I like David Tennant. You guys know I love David Tennant. I don't really like the decision to turn the Doctor back into David Tennant, and I don't really like the ending of The Giggle, even though I like all 3 episodes individually. Okay guys, I'm gonna just do a fan brain moment, and I want you guys to say in the comments, if you're listening to me, I want you guys to say yay or nay on this idea for the 60th anniversary special. Okay, so instead of Power of the Doctor, when Jodie Whittaker regenerates into the 10th Doctor, instead she doesn't regenerate at all, and the 60th anniversary keeps Jodie Whittaker as the main Doctor. Stay with me, stay with me. Still written by Rusty Davies, and instead of being 3 episodes, it's one 90-minute episode, and it features the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, the 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith, and the 12th Doctor, played by Peter Capaldi. 4 modern Doctors minus poor Christopher Eccleston, who is not coming back, sadly. And it's all of them, and they're fighting the Celestial Toymaker, and it's like an extended version of the episode of The Giggle. Like, hear me out, imagine this. It starts out with all the Doctors in their kind of individual plot points. Maybe you could even have the 10th Doctor and Donna, except this isn't the 14th Doctor and Donna, it's literally the 10th Doctor and Donna during their time in Series 4. Be having an adventure similar to Wild Blue Yonder that lets the Toymaker in, and then the Toymaker comes in on Earth, and of course Jodie Whittaker is on Earth, and then maybe Matt Smith is doing something similar to the Star Beast, and Peter Capaldi's with UNIT, and then they all come together around the midpoint, and then it's a multi-Doctor story until the end, where Jodie Whittaker then gets killed and regenerates into the 15th Doctor, and then that leads us directly into Church on Ruby Road, and that could have been the 60th anniversary special instead of the Star Beast. Like, imagine that, a real multi-Doctor story, still written by Rusty Davies, still introduces all of the stuff that's coming for this next season, still got David Tennant, it also has Matt Smith, also has Peter Capaldi, still has Donna as well, but no 14th Doctor, no bi-generation. Come on you guys, be real with me for a second, that's the most badass idea you've ever heard. Now, I'm not saying it would be a perfect episode, but I would say it would be a perfect 60th anniversary celebration. I say this as if I didn't do a massive detailed review of the 60th anniversary just last week, where I gave my positive thoughts to all of the 60th anniversary specials. I really like those episodes, guys. I'm just spitballing here. You guys should have told me to shut up years ago. Let me get to the next comment. Here's one from Dr. Skelly, who says, Space Babies was definitely a trip. Got to love the creativity of a bogey monster. Ncuti has definitely proven he had got the energy and charisma to be a truly great Doctor. As for the Devil's Chord, absolutely amazing. Jinx Monsoon as Maestro is the most menacing one-off villain we've had in a long time. A solid 6.5 for Space Babies and 8 out of 10 for Devil's Chord, respectively. Very good taste. W comment. Zay says, can't stop thinking about the meta of it all. The Maestro playing the Doctor Who theme was enough to prove to me that the meta aspects are setting up some reveal. That was plenty, but the episode ending with the Doctor's line, there's always a twist at the end, winking at the camera, then cut to a superfluous, non-diegetic dance number that references a Doctor Who trope, an actress in the show, and the Doctor's granddaughter was enough to break my brain. Not to mention the Harbinger kids showing up. It's so silly and playful and absurd that I'm having a blast. But what does it mean? It's so meta that Susan Twist herself could be Susan, sent into this Doctor Who show to help her grandfather escape. I think that's maybe what they're doing. And so does the Doctor's wink indicate that he's self-aware of this metagame? And if so, when did he figure it out? Is this whole season a trap in the shape of a TV show called Doctor Who? Yes. It's so 90s, it's ridiculous, and I'm loving it. I mean, this could all just be some cheeky Rusty Davies stuff, but the meta stuff was so pointed in the Devil's Chord. Anyhow, having a blast, loving these episodes. Okay, so a couple years ago, I had an idea, and maybe this is my reasoning behind I like this more meta element route that they're going for. But anyway, a couple years years ago, I had an idea. If you don't know, I write Doctor Who scripts in my spare time, basically all the time. I'm basically writing all day, every day. I actually uploaded one of my earliest scripts adapted into an episode here. You can watch it below. But anyway, a couple years ago, I wrote this script, kind of similar to this. It wasn't a full fourth wall break. It was a sequel to the Mind Robber episode set in the land of fiction that definitely played around with the fourth wall a lot. And what I was thinking when I was watching The Devil's Chord is, oh my goodness, it's just like that idea I had in my head, but it's going to be brought to the screen and it's going to be epic. So yes, I am a little biased because I have always loved that idea and I've always been intrigued by it and I've always wanted that to be something that gets shown on the screen. I do love writing. You guys can't stop me from saying that. I do love writing. I don't know if Susan Twist is going to be literally Susan. I mean, she probably is. The Susan name drop is definitely setting up something. There's no way it's not. This is the first time Susan has ever been name dropped in Modern Who. I'm pretty sure. Someone in the comment section correct me on that. I'm actually like 99% sure that's wrong. I'm sure they mentioned it once. But to have it be so front and center like that and to actually have a back and forth about it, there is no way. There is simply no way. In fact, I would not be surprised if the only reason we had an episode set in 1963 in the first place is to set up that Susan exists. And also, just in case a few people didn't get this, the song, there's always a twist at the end. It's a double entendre, it's a play on words, right? Because the dance that they're doing, where they're shaking their body back and forth, is called the twist. It's a very famous 60s dance. It was the main dance that was in the 60s. Ironically, what this sequence reminded me of, and I mean this in the best way possible, is that scene in the War Machines where they go into the dance club and everyone's doing the twist. This is like the modern version of that scene. So the joke is, there's always a twist at the end because you think, oh, twist like plot twist. That's what you think, but the real twist is that they're doing the twist. It's a very silly joke. I would say it's rather well done and rather set up in that there isn't really any other way for that episode to end except in a dance number. And also, while at 2 AM I wasn't very receptive to the song, as I've watched the episode more and more, I think I'm on my 7th rewatch now, I've actually started to like it. I've started singing the songs. I've also started singing the I have a dog, he's named Fred, my dog's alive, he's not dead, my dog, my dog, my dog. If you want a dog, get your own. I love you, you love me. We are two, we are not three. We're happy, I think, perhaps. Every time I get to that part, I just fucking crack up. It is so goddamn funny. But anyway, yes, that's what there's always a twist at the end means. I mean, obviously it can be taken multiple ways and that maybe there is going to be a plot twist at the end. But the joke is that, oh, we're doing the twist, the 60s twist. Anyway, let's move on to the next comment. Oh my god, we're going to be here forever. We are 4 comments in and I'm 20 minutes into the video. There are like 100 comments in this video, guys. They're just so fast. Every episode after Wild Blue Yonder is littered with fantastic ideas that aren't given any time to breathe or build momentum. The Devil's Chord especially, which I still can't wrap my head around the plot of. The rules just seem to pop in and out of focus, and Maestro didn't settle as any kind of threat to me. Maybe that's because all of the deaths were cut away from. Space Babies was a weird one. It makes my least favourite tropes from all 3 New Who showrunners. The kookiness cheese from Rusty Davies, the unrelenting catch praising of Moffat, and the incredibly brittle / preachy messaging of Chibnall. Come on, man. Maybe you just hate fun. Nah, I'm just kidding. I guess he wasn't just polite when he said he remained an avid fan after he quit writing it. All those qualms are nothing in comparison to the state of the crew's air bud mouths, though. I'm shuddering as I type this. Okay, that's fair. Final notes, Tootsy is brilliant, everyone knows that, but his doctor keeps running away from things, and that rings a little odd to me. I'm also very worried that Ruby is turning into another Clara Oswald-esque chosen one. The Maestro just drops her after tapping into her inner song, ? Really didn't help with that episode's uneven pacing. Here's hoping the next episode does a lot better. Come on, Moffat. Yeah, I feel like this is fair. I'm gonna push back on a few things, but then I'll say an overarching point. I do like the cheesiness of Russell T Davies era. I like that part in The Stolen Earth where they go to the Jadoon ship and David Tennant's like, bo, wo, yo, ho, ho, ho. Look at my Maho. I like that stuff, okay, and I like that kind of stuff in Space Babies as well. I didn't think the messaging in Space Babies was done that badly. I've seen it being done way worse before in all 3 eras. I think the Sontaran Stratagem is like the main one that I turn to when I think of like poor social messaging, because that one just makes me roll my eyes all the time. It's just like, car's bad, am I right, guys? And then you have Kill the Moon, which is so abysmally bad. How does that exist? And for the Chibnall era, it's probably Orphan 55, which isn't as as egregious as Kill the Moon, because it's pretty much all fine until the very last ending scene where they just go above and beyond and they're like, do you get it? And it's like, yeah, we got it. I don't think Space Babies is anything compared to that. I will say though, it is very unlikely that Russell T Davies paid much attention to Stephen Moffat or Chris Chibnall's version of the show. In fact, if I recall, in 2018, both Stephen Moffat and Russell Davies, they were doing like an interview thing. This is how niche it gets, people. They were doing a back and forth interview thing over email, and then that was released in Doctor Who magazine. And this was in Jodie Whittaker's first season. And they were saying they were struggling to keep up because it was now on Sundays, which at the time was like a really big deal that they changed it to Sundays. How quaint. And so let's be real, it's very unlikely that Russell T Davies has watched all of the episodes that came out since he left. I imagine he watched a few. I imagine he remembers all of the key moments, maybe. But also it's very difficult after being on a show to then just watch it recreationally, because you obviously know all of the ins and outs behind the scenes, and that's impossible not to think about because that was like your whole life for 4 years. But okay, anyway, towards the first part of your comment, I think this is the perfect time for me to push my agenda on why the 20-minute episode format is far, far, far superior, and these episodes just prove it. I've been saying this for years now, and every time I say it, there's always that one guy who's like, what? No. But 20 minutes is just objectively better formatting for Doctor Who than 45, and it always has been. This has always been the case ever since series 1. The modern series of Doctor Who has always struggled with pacing. It always has. Every episode has always struggled with pacing. There are very few exceptions where the 45-minute format actually benefits the episode. Very few. Even episodes like 42, which literally use the format of the episode to its advantage, to the point where it's literally the titular gimmick of the episode, I think will be better as a 2-parter or a 4-part 20-minute episode, because that's just the way Doctor Who is meant to be watched. You have way more time, you have way more development, it's so much easier to write, and it just adds a full, neat structure to the story. By the way, when I say 20-minute structure, I don't just mean a 45-minute episode cut completely evenly in half. Of course, when you write 20-minute episodes, there's a whole arc in there that's totally different from when you're writing just one 45-minute episode. And it's weird because for the Devil's Chord especially, at the exact 20-minute mark is when Maestro comes out of the piano and meets the Doctor for the first time, which would be a perfect cliffhanger if just tweaked slightly. People, including me, have been voicing problems with pacing for 90% of episodes since the show came out, but especially since the Star Beast, I feel it's just become too obvious for anyone not to notice. And that is why we need to move back to the 20-minute format, people. Every day, someone points out a new hit show to me that is doing the 20-minute format. Most of these I haven't even heard of. The whole feel of episodes changed with 20 minutes. And also, we're talking about the BBC, we're talking about BBC's funding. You know what's easier to produce than 45-minute episodes? 20-minute episodes. 20-minute episodes where you can reuse the sets between episodes. It's almost like the 20-minute format is perfectly suited for Doctor Who. Almost. But I'll stop pushing my agenda. Let's move on to the next comment. Phoenixion says, I have high hopes for the series despite the controversy. There have been a lot of controversies. Space Babies, I really didn't like this episode at all. The vibes were like the end of the world, but much more less toned down end of the world. Felt much more grand scale, showing us aliens and putting a threat to the protagonists. Rose was scared and the Doctor got a bit of time to explain the Time War and how he felt, and it could perfectly be an introductory episode for Doctor Who. But Space Babies just doesn't hit the mark. Barely no mystery, introducing the threat too early, and for me the vibes wasn't it. And I don't know, if they intend new viewers to start watching the 60th specials, the Christmas one, I guess, or this one, I felt the pacing was off. Important moments like, oh my race was wiped out, followed by then laughing, seemed weird. The phone call moment I felt rushed too, and giving her the key to the TARDIS after defeating an imaginary monster was like an FU to Martha, lol. Very weak in my opinion. The Devil's Chord, now this is an episode that felt like Doctor Who. I noticed the structure of the episode was very similar to the Toymaker one, so we can now, when the next Toymaker related episode starts, right from the get-go. I really don't mind the 6-month gap. Probably used to make audiobooks and comic stuff to fit in there. That is exactly why. Although I have to say that the ending, since the moment the song battle starts, was kind of weak alongside the musicals, in my opinion. But it makes sense that they had to defeat Maestro like that since it was related to the Toymaker. I actually rather like the ending. I thought it was better than the ending of The Giggle. I really like Ncuti as a serious Doctor, so him splitting into two still rubs me the wrong way because I feel like it was a catharsis, but that would make the Doctor like, oh, anything that happened in my past does not bother me anymore, so I don't know. 100% agree. Also, a lot of emphasis on Ruby being marked as special, oh the snow, oh the hidden song. I felt that similar things like the Dr. Donna were handled better. I have high hopes for Boom, and I feel that it could be the episode that could introduce a character like Jack Harkness, but I don't think it will be the case since we would have known by now due to leaks. 7 out of 10 counting the 2 episodes, and I expect Rusty Davies to bring great world building like he did in the past. But I don't even think we can cool that with Ruby's mum and grandma, whose names I don't remember, and don't feel like a Jackie or Mickey in terms of interesting characters. A few doubts I have: are there any 2-parters confirmed, maybe season finale, and are there any modern day episodes? Thanks for reading. Thanks for the comment. The answer to both of your questions is yes. I do get what you mean. I like the character of the mom. Rusty Davies very infamously loves writing mothers. It's like his favorite thing. And I like Ruby's family, although I will say I'm not as connected to them as I was for even the Jones family. But the Jones family, it's a different type of connection because I actually didn't really like them in a weird way. Obviously you're not meant to like them, that's the intention, but I like the kids. It was the adults, the mom and dad, who were a mixed bag and then at the very end get a redemption. I feel like they're the weakest, in quotation mark, family dynamic in Rusty Davies 1. Maybe it's just because I love series 3 so much, but I was so much more connected with them than I was to these characters. Of course that's just recency bias. I mean, looking back on the series after they've had a few more appearances and not just one episode and one extra scene, I think I'll be able to get a better grasp on that. Thank you for the comment. Breakfast King says, the huge exposition and trauma dump was lame at the beginning and the Doctor's tone shift was weird, but these 2 episodes were fun. I like the Devil's Chord a lot more than Space Babies, and I love Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. So do I. I really like him as a Doctor. I really do. He's coming up there. He's coming up there in my list. He reminds me of one of my friends if he was more flamboyant and a little less aggressive. Honestly, same. I know a guy who is just like this guy, but a little less flamboyant. It killed me when he randomly gave Ruby that little jump scare in the TARDIS. This is the best the show has ever looked to, so cinematic, I love it. And the Maestro was actually terrifying. Such a cool villain. I'm really excited to see the rest of the Toymakers Legions, and I have no theories about Ruby's parents, but I'm locking in that Mrs. Flood is at least the hooded woman on Ruby Road. And holy shit, that TARDIS interior is my new favourite, and the purple and blue lights just look so cool. Definitely agree. It's the best of Modern Who. I really like it. What I will say is I've had a few theories on who Ruby Sunday's parents are, and I've been trying to keep them quiet, but I've noticed in the fandom a few other people are clocking onto a few things that I clocked onto, and I was actually making a video that was going to unveil one of my theories. I think I still am. You guys are going to have to wait and see. But either way, on the theory side of Doctor Who, this is probably the first time I've enjoyed talking about and theorizing what's going to happen in the new Doctor Who since 2012? Yeah, it's been that long, guys. 12 years was the last time that I actively enjoyed a series mystery, because oh my goodness, after that did they get tiresome. Either they were straight up too obvious or too uninteresting or just bad. I didn't like wasting time theorizing on stuff like who is Missy, because it's obviously the Master. What is the hybrid, because I didn't care. What's the timeless child, is the Doctor. Stuff like that was so tiresome to me, and I really felt like held the show back, which is why it's so weird and refreshing for me now to actually go into fandom spaces and enjoy talking about what's going to happen next. It literally has been too long. So yeah, I'm loving it. Kevin McCloy says, I'll start off by saying, I dislike Rusty Davies as a person. Wow. Well, we're starting off swinging straight out the gate. I am easily irritated by his indefensible virtue signaling behind the scenes, using flimsy ass logic to redesign Davros for no other reason than to pretend he's above the rest of us, when we know it's an open secret that he let the BBC producers walk over him and his cast in series 1 did nothing with the sexual harassment on his show, but now he wants to play the savior complex. The only reason my dislike hasn't boiled over to stone cold hate is because I'm willing to accept that he's innocent in these shady ass allegations, but I'm ready to drop any famous person on site these days with how often they get outed for degenerate behavior. That being said, I think Russell can write, and when Waters of Mars exists, you know the man can write. Damn, that's one crazy paragraph. We got 3 paragraphs left. Neither of these 2 episodes were it, man. Space Babies was straight up ass. I don't care about social commentary when it can literally be summed up in dialogue and isn't even an argument to be had. Damn. The premise of the babies being abandoned because of the law against turning the life machine off is a great idea, and I think if Rusty was really wanted to make a point, the episode would have focused more on the argument, and it so unsubtly brings up without any nuance. Nah lad, a bunch of space babies with bad CGI lips was not the way to start this new era. Bad jokes, bad series arc setup, and I found the execution to be creepy and not in a fun camp way, but more in a nonce camp way. I think the Doctor's speech about how no one is born wrong was excellent, and the only bit of the episode I actively enjoyed. Okay, slow it down just before we move on. Nonce camp is crazy. This is a wild ass comment. By the way, let me just restate my own personal opinions. I like Rusty Davies. I think he's a funny ass dude, and I think he's incredibly talented. These opinions are this guy's own. I'm not saying that they're totally wrong or whatever. As always, opinions are subjective, and I would say on the whole it is perfectly sensible to not idolize random strangers, whether they're famous or not. Good rule of thumb to know is that celebrities are regular ass people too, and they can do dumbass shit same as everyone else. Maybe they can even be straight up evil. But anyway, this guy is coming out swinging. Let's read the rest of the reply. The Devil's Chord was better. Maestro was overacted and in parts took me out of the episode. It felt so much like a performance, and I honestly can't tell if that makes the episode better or worse, because the Maestro being a massive adult child god who shouts nearly every line half delivery might fit the characterization. It was just a strange choice from the actress / Asterix. I have no idea how the performer identifies that, left me asking why the Doctor Who musical sucked as a musical. Like, the song and dance number at the end just doesn't fit with the rest of the episode. Like, it was less a musical episode and more an episode where music is diegetic, where I would have preferred an outright musical. Episode 2 was much better though. It felt way less cringy, and Maestro had a presence as a villain. The directing of both episodes is clean as well, and I dig Chuti and Millie in their roles. It all comes back to RTD. I personally hold the man on any pedestal because these mofos need to be taken off him and rejoin the rest of us normal folk. That said, I'm doing my best to not go into these episodes with existing biases, but I can't help but feeling having Rusty Davies coming back as showrunner is a bad decision. I think that's perfectly respectable. Now, of course, in my video I stated kind of the opposite. I said if Rusty Davies wasn't the showrunner, I don't think I'd be enjoying the show right now. Everything about the show that I'm enjoying right now, and I really am enjoying the show, can be attributed to him, basically. Of course, the direction and music and Chudigawa, all of those are really good, but a lot of the story decisions that are really reinvigorating, well, not reinvigorating, but just making me really as passionate as I have been over these past few days is due to him, basically. But at the same time, I get it. I was initially against him coming back. I don't think anyone's wrong for being against him coming back. At the end of the day, it's just an opinion. It's a crazy ass comment though. W question mark? I'll leave that up to you to decide. Okay, this was the top comment on my video, and I wanted to include it not because of the actual comment, but because of the top reply. This is someone saying, oh my god, someone else noticed the 6-month time jump. Honestly, the amount of people asking how Ruby knew the Doctor so well was starting to annoy me. Lol. Yeah, there's a 6-month time jump between the 2 episodes. This is, I think, subtly weaved in with the Doctor saying, what are you, June, July 2024? And of course the last episode took place at Christmas. And then the reply to this is lazy writing, to be honest. Now, what I find crazy about this is that this reply to this post, this reply has 11 likes. They're calling a time jump in Doctor Who between episodes lazy writing. Okay, so you know how, guys, I always say this. I always ask, what exactly is bad writing? And it is because of stuff like this. Because, I mean, what's even the problem here? What, am I missing something? What's the lazy writing? What's the bad writing? There is a time jump between episodes of Doctor Who. Hello? What's the issue? Maybe I'm too big a fan of the original Doctor Who, where there were time jumps between 99.9% of episodes. What is the problem with there being a time jump? Like, seriously, where's the bad writing? I feel like everyone's just gonna call everything bad writing from now on, so why even fucking bother? Here's a good one. I didn't like the musical, but I hated the babies. Maestro was a bit like a Disney villain, but they were the GOAT. I'm still not convinced of the chemistry between Ruby, and the Doctor. I'm not convinced by her acting fraud. Chuti is also the GOAT. As the guy that posted this poll was. That's me. I kind of get why people are gonna hate the babies, kind of Marmite thing. Bringing kids into sci-fi is always gonna be a dangerous game. Look at Wesley Crusher. People are gonna get that reference. It's a Star Trek reference. There was a Star Trek reference in this episode too. It also really did feel like Star Trek in a strange way. Not really, maybe purely aesthetically, should I say. Rotten Milk says, I like that the sonic screwdriver actually did something sonic for once. Me too! The Ponderer, that's a great name, by the way. Space Babies weirdly felt like Rusty Davies doing his own version of Beast Below, and I liked it about as much. I think I did too. I genuinely think I did too. I like the Beast Below. I think it's a pretty good episode. Infamously, Stephen Moffat said that he didn't like that episode because his kid didn't like it. Poor Stephen Moffat, man. Imagine your kid doesn't like your episode of Doctor Who. That should be rough. The Devil's Chord is a damn instant classic, and the thing that's got me fully on board this new era. Yeah, The Devil's Chord is damn good. I'm beginning to understand why they dropped 2 at the same time, even if on the night itself, oh my goodness, that shit was hell. JBCA says Space Babies was fine. End of the world vibes, nice introduction for newcomers, the plot wasn't terrible, and the Rani mentioned. The Devil's Chord, however, is absolutely bonkers, and I think that's not only the best way to describe it, but possibly also the only accurate one. Absolutely bonkers, and I love it. I felt like the best parts of the giggle turned up to 11, with much less of the not so good stuff. And Murray Gold, oh my gold. I absolutely adore this episode. You and me both, brother. And here's another comment from someone starting with J. At 2 a.m. I kept thinking, what if Susan is the one who waits? Pissed at being left behind. And Kara Lou says that's actually a really great idea. Like a really great idea. I don't really like that idea. Why would Susan be pissed? She wasn't left behind. She was in love, man. I will say though, I am a little worried that they might mishandle Susan. Russell T Davies is known for changing the original emotional intent of stuff from Classic Who when he brings it into New Who. I'm looking at you, Tales of the TARDIS. Oh wow says, I think the Devil's Chord would have benefited a lot from being a two-parter. That's what I just said. They could have kept the code open but keep Maestro in shadow, then go to the 60s with the Doctor and Ruby and get into the world, explore the world without music, give it a bit more of an eerie vibe, maybe move the moment in which humanity stopped creating music further in the timeline to the 50s or so that people are not so against music already, and focus more on the Beatles and other artists. Have them be the actual Beatles making good music and have it be a bit of a horror story where the iconic artists are being killed one by one while composing, and have the Doctor and Moobs trying to figure out the mystery and save the musicians and the future of the world. Then have a proper reveal of Maestro at the end as a cliffhanger with the Doctor being terrified of them and running away as he did because he doesn't think he can defeat another one of this essentially eldritch gods. And then finally have the second part move away from the historical vibe and just focus on the confrontation against Maestro. Also make the whole thing a sort of musical episode in which the way to defeat villain is through music. That way the musical number at the end wouldn't feel so jarring, and it could be a bit like the god from Rings of Akaton where they overload the villain in this case with a melody instead of memories, and the melody could come from Ruby's heart in order to keep that thread going. I know I basically just rewrote the whole thing. You did. But like, I literally spent no time thinking about this. It was me first thought as soon as the episode was over, and it came to me once, no effort put into it, and I do think it keeps the heart of the story while improving it immensely. So I don't know, I didn't hate this or Space Babies, but something is definitely off. Or maybe I was just tired. Yeah, I think that's fair. What I will say though, it is always so much easier adding on to other people's ideas than coming up with your own. Now you say, I barely put any thought into this. You've got to remember that for Russell T Davies as a writer, not only has he put a lot of thought into this, but he's probably been thinking about it for several months straight, and that it's all he's been thinking about. I don't think people realize behind the scenes, when you write stuff, you are just writing, and you're writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. You know how I said I'm writing all the time? These people are writing all the time. I'm working on this shit part-time. This is their full job. And so yes, well, you did come up with your own idea that was basically a whole new episode that riffed on this one. Basically, that is a lot more easy to do than coming up with everything from scratch. I mean, this episode is so well plotted, every single thing, like it's so well thought out that the time taken for the Doctor to go up the stairs to the ground floor to the basement is all perfectly timed for them to have multiple different lines of dialogue so that the villain can chase them, and all that. The geography of the scene, everything about it screams, I have thought about this for a long time. I promise you that this episode of The Devil's Chord was not some cobbled together last minute, oh god, I couldn't think of any ideas. This one will do. But what I will say is that if we were rearranging this episode to be two 20-minute long episodes, the same with Space Babies, and you could have the first 20 minutes of Space Babies be a lot more of a introduction per se, instead of the first 8 minutes of the episode, you could more expand the introduction in a way, and then have the ending be either the Boogeyman or the titular Space Babies, either way how you want to slice it. Of course, when you transport these episodes into 20-minute formats, they completely change. But for these two episodes, I think it honestly would really work. Maybe I just missed the old format. But next part, Chicken Winner says, I like the part with Ringo. Me too, brother. Squish King says the tension in the scene after the Doctor stopped hiding from the Maestro was amazing. The score, the frantic dialogue, the dramatic single tear, end of the world stakes are present in almost every Doctor Who episode, but something about the stakes in the Devil's Chord felt really real. Ncuti and Millie are really talented performers with an incredible soundtrack that is really helping them sell their performance. Super impressed. I will say, this might be Maury Gold's best seasonal soundtrack. If you include the 60th specials as well, if you include them all from 2023 to 2024, this might be Maury Gold's best soundtrack. Because as I was talking about in my previous video, the Series 8, 9 and 10 soundtrack, rest in peace the Series 10 soundtrack, are a little so it's awesome to see him back at full force, reinvigorated after a well-earned break. Maury Gold is the GOAT after all. Same with Sega Nakanola. Unwanted says, I still find that silly that we can't watch Doctor Who at a reasonable time. They're gonna make us sleep deprived for new Doctor Who content, lol. And then Melon replies, you can watch it at any time you want now. I'd say that's even more reasonable than having to wait until 6 AM every Saturday. Instead, you can watch it whenever. Did I say 6 AM? I meant 6 PM. I disagree. The limited release schedule makes it feel special. You sit down to watch Doctor Who. Instead of what I did was I stayed up and I reloaded the page and I felt miserable. It was utterly miserable experience. I'm so glad that I only have to record one episode, because recording two, you guys don't even know. Oh my god. So bad. Russell T Davies, do not do it again, please. I'm begging. No more 2-episode premiere. And if you do it again, can you invite me to the premiere event so I don't have to stay up till midnight? See, this is what I'm saying. This is what I don't understand. You've got a Doctor Who premiere event. You're inviting YouTubers to that event, and I don't get an invite? What's going on, man? I'm the biggest Doctor Who fan here. There ain't anyone bigger than me. It's outrageous. It's unfair. Batboy1300 says, I love the end segment of the Devil's Chord with the song and keyboard crossing. It reminded me of the end of The Giggle and the end of Big, with the Doctor mentioning how the Toymaker's domain was lingering. The song, and especially the keyboard crossing, was the last remnants of the Maestro's domain lingering. That's really cool. That is a really cool. I didn't even notice that. And it's a really inventive way to incorporate the iconic imagery of Abbey Road. But anyway, here's another one from Manny Bachelor, another GOAT from the comment section. All right. Honestly, it's one of those instances where I can't really form a definitive opinion. You see, I'm reading this in his voice, but I can't do his voice. Like, it's so new and fresh, and I just didn't know what to exactly make of it. I think I liked it. I don't see Space Baby standing out as a season opener though. Like, the competition is insane. 11th Hour, Smith and Jones, Deep Breath, Woman Who Fell to Earth, etc, etc. Like, I don't think it really stacks up. Me too. It's probably better than New Earth, and it's probably better than Spyfall. It's probably better than the Halloween Apocalypse. It's better than Magician's Apprentice. I mean, that's the worst one. But yeah, that's about it. I wouldn't say this episode's better than Deep Breath. Saying that, I felt it introduced the style and tone of the new era successfully and was quite enjoyable. The Devil's Chord was an absolute fever dream, and I don't think I've finished an episode feeling more confused than how I felt about the episode. And what's with all this fourth wall breaking? Made me feeling very quizzical. Doctor Who got me quite bamboozled now, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing. If anything, I've become more intrigued in the season as a whole. What a silly show. Me too, brother. Also, it was very comforting knowing old Doctor One was over there in Shoreditch just chilling. I love that guy. Me too. I think the most confused I've been finishing an episode was The Giggle, because I loved the episode and it's probably my favorite of the 60th anniversary, but that ending is so goddamn bad. That's like such a shit ending. So that one takes the cake for me, but definitely great thoughts, great comment. But yeah, massive W, thumbs up. Macra saying, wait, what the hell's a Macra? Macra don't exist, silly. The talking babies' mouths creeped me out. They were uncanny. Space Babies as an episode gave me the end of the world vibes on certain bits. Feels like a mashup of a multitude of episodes with something new as well. Great comment, great profile picture, and yeah, the mouths were a little bit weird. I like Eric's face though, that cracks me up. Amro God says, although I was unhappy with dropping 2 episodes at once, thank God we got the Devil's Chord as a palate cleanser. I'll give them both a rewatch today, but Space Babies will definitely be in the bad spectrum for me. 3 out of 10 definitely. Holy shit. To be fair, I gave the Star Beast a 3 out of 10 when I first watched it as well, and I've raised that to a 6 now. The Doctor telling Ruby his first paragraph in his Wikipedia in 2 minutes is definitely mind-boggling. True. But I still think it can make sense in this new characterization of the Doctor. The episode felt really disconnected with scenes serving either character or plot, never both. That made me super worried because that would have been the 5th script Rusty Davies was writing in a row, so I assumed all his episodes in this season would be like that. But the Devil's Chord doesn't fall in that category. The episode flows rather naturally and the dangers are respected. The Doctor really falling in the floor in PTSD from a Toymaker-like entity was appreciated and is still building the 15th Doctor's character. Hype for Boom. Fun fact, at least here in Brazil mention! I assume in Disney Plus all around the world, as soon as the episodes were released, the Christmas special was placed in the season as episode 1 and Space Babies is episode 2 and so on. If someone is discovering Doctor Who in a few years time, Church on Ruby Road will be their episode 1, which is definitely a better entry to the series. I think so too. I feel like Church on Ruby Road is the type of episode that's going to age really well, because when I first watched it, I was like, yeah, it was okay. You know, it was a pretty fun Christmas special. About on the same level as like Voyage of the Damned or The Runaway Bride. Honestly, it's probably as good as the next Doctor 2, but that one's got a special place in my heart. I really like that one. But hello to the people in Brazil. I love Brazil, man. Great place. Sparky Pitch says, my God, you sound tired. No, that's just how I sound all the time, boss. I live on the Pacific coast of the States, so I got to watch these episodes at 4 p.m. Lucky fucking bastard! And I really hope the scheduling in the UK can get sorted so that it isn't at such an awful hour. Yeah, man, 2 a.m. is pretty rough. Really, just best of luck in that regard. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, my friend. I felt that Space Babies was only sorta okay, just far too fast-paced and jumbled up. It felt like it wasn't giving the audience space to breathe, and the constant action felt like it limited the actors' performances. I respect how much they were trying to do in a single episode, both provide a lot of exposition to new audiences and tell a compelling, isolated story, but Space Babies really does feel like an emotional roller coaster that's pulling the audience along for the ride, for better or for worse. I really enjoyed The Devil's Chord, felt like it had a really compelling stakes and a good balance of tension and humour. I thought it was great that the piano piece was allowed to play for as long as it did. It was beautiful, and you really don't get stuff like that in television much. The chemistry between Gatwa and Gibson is really strong in both episodes, but The Devil's Chord gives Gibson a chance to express really deep fear and sadness, and watching Gatwa tried to comfort her while also displaying the Doctor's own grief really solidified their performances as amazing for me. The Doctor is great as always. There really is always something to love about this show. True, 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 and true! Sam knew this guy's a goat as well. I agree with the weird tonal shifts and exposition at the start of Space Babies, especially very hand-holdy for the Disney Plus audience. But I felt that the end shift of Ncuti saying that he can't take Ruby back to his mum was actually very understandable. True. He's just given Ruby a TARDIS key, but because it's RTD, I think he's back to Rose and 9 in Father's Day. He's probably making it known he can't do this after learning his mistake the last time. So he's getting it out of the way now. Then again, this could only feel normal enough to me because I just rewatched the episode a day or two ago. I rewatched Father's Day recently as well, and it is a goddamn banger. Rayman says, oh, I love that game. Bro, it doesn't even release until 7 o'clock in the US, at least in my area. They could release it like at 2 in the day here and get it to you guys at least at a reasonable time of the evening. What the hell? I don't know, bro. I got no idea what they're thinking. Russell T. Davies, save us. Please save us, Donald Trump. You're a hero for getting this review out as fast as you did. Hey, I don't need the constant flashbacks. Lol. Yeah, okay, maybe I was a bit too mean to the American audience. I love Americans. I love America too. USA. USA! 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 But yeah, hopefully it should be better from now on since I don't have to talk about 2 episodes, record for an extra hour and a half, and then edit that as well. Goddamn, guys, it was fucking rough. Maniacal Flame YT says, Space Babies, a bit of a strange plot, but honestly, I like stuff like that. It's out of the ordinary, and whilst I was expecting the episode to be a bit lame due to it being about Space Babies, I was quite impressed. The episode was built very much towards potential new fans, essentially being the end of the world for new 2 fans. That's a good name. But I don't have a problem with that at all. Anything that gets more people into Doctor Who is a win in my books. Another thing with the end of the world comparison is that I like the change of the Doctor seeing Cassandra, the last human, the last of her kind, or at least in her own mind, and just letting her die, versus now the same with the bogeyman, but choosing that it doesn't matter how monstrous you are, or that you're built to be scared of, you still deserve to be saved. Yeah, that shit was beautiful. I thought that scene was beautiful, personally, and I loved how they harkened back to it at the end of the episode. The Devil's Chord, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the ending of the Beatles saving the day was very predictable, but at the same time, I don't think there's much you can really do about that. Having an episode with the Beatles in, an episode all about music, obviously they're going to be the ones to end the plot. The Doctor removing sound from the world using the Sonic made me have a silly, goofy smile the entire time. Me too. I thought that was really cool as a show of power and as a warning, but the Maestro was played way better than I expected. Top tier villain in my books, but I understand this villain is going to have some mixed opinions. I just personally loved it. For me, I felt my expectations were too high because I was judging it next to Neil Patrick Harris, and Neil Patrick Harris is like a world-class actor, right? Jinx Monsoon did a great job, just not as good as the Toymaker, but that makes sense because they're an underling of the Toymaker. You can't have the underling overshadowing the regular Toymaker, man. I mean, I suppose you can. If they did, I wouldn't be complaining. I wouldn't be like, God damn, this shit's too good. No! But still, I understand it, and I did like Maestro, and I think my favorite Maestro moment of the week is when they threw the fiddle aside, obviously, and then they replayed it backwards, and they said backwards, music battle. Gets me every time. Start of a fucking epic rap battles of history. It looks so goofy. I love it. And I love how Ncuti Gatwa just feels like he's been the Doctor for years. He really does. He fits in perfectly, and you can tell these episodes are written by Rusty Davies. In The Devil's Chord, the most he felt like he fit in really well with the 9th and 10th Doctor. These episodes felt brand new, but with a hint of nostalgia of what I grew up with, and I think that's magical. I'm very happy with these first 2 episodes, and I'm very excited for the near future of the show. Same. Really same. You've encapsulated my thoughts perfectly, to be honest. John Marston says, I came in with low expectations, so I wasn't massively disappointed, and disappointed I was not. After watching both episodes just a couple hours ago, I was surprised, and after finishing them, I felt like I just wanted more, which is a feeling I've not probably had for new Doctor Who in a while, if we're not including the last 2 specials, Wild Blue Yonder and The Giggle. Yeah, the episodes had its flaws here and there, but the good outweighs the bad by far. Thankfully, it's only got good and bad traits, not ugly, like the horrid beginning of the Star Beast with the Doctor floating in space. That was, I mean, that's a Disney Plus thing, right? So we can't really hold the episode responsible for that. That was made for the American. I'm sorry, guys. I'm now eagerly awaiting the next episode, and I feel on board for this season. Okay, here's a big one from the GOAT, Tom. I think Space Babies was pretty damn good. The plot was like 7 out of 10, but Ncuti and Millie absolutely smashed it out the park. Their energy and chemistry is infectious. I absolutely loved them. Also, the set design and cinematography and everything like that was stunning. Downsides, the weird CGI baby mouths were freaky as hell. It was so strange. True. Why don't they just have voices come from the speakers in the chairs? That's an idea that should have been in the room. Someone should have said that at some point, you know what I mean? Probably would have worked better. Also, the profanity filter joke was kind of funny maybe the first 2 times, but damn, they leaned into it to the point where it just kind of felt immature. Speaking of which, okay, people talk about bad writing, let's talk about bad writing. This was the only case of bad writing in the whole episode. I'm calling it now. The Doctor was about to say shit. He was about to swear. Doctor Who swearing? Not my Doctor Who. Rule number 1. The Doctor does not swear. Russell T Davies, I hope you're ready to receive a sternly worded letter about how the Doctor would never swear. It's just not in his character. I of course kid, but at the same time, the Doctor shouldn't be swearing, man. Yep, that's my biggest problem with the Space Babies. The Devil's Chord was quite jarring for me at times. I still love Tutti Amelia and all the visuals, but the way they wrote the dialogue about the music really felt weird to me. I don't want to be that guy, but I'm a musician myself. Oh, this is going to be interesting. A lot of it was really quite grating, to be honest, and a tritone being the Devil's Chord is a myth. And yes, I know it's a TV show, but it's such a widespread misconnotation that I don't think Russ T Davies knew it was a myth, which is why it makes me cringe. The idea that then there was one chord which could send Maestro back, I just think was, for the love of God, don't let it be just a major triad, and then it basically was. I don't know, I'm very biased, but it just felt amateurish to me. I think the chord was a reference to the Beatles song. Maestro was holding the bow for the violin completely wrong, and I felt like that could have been fixed by having a violinist on set. Chords are like words. You can't just say sesquipedalian and expect people to be blown away. It's about the context in which they're used. Basically, I'm nitpicking, but it was just a very difficult watch for me. Hopefully on rewatch, I'll learn to look past it. I don't know. And don't get me started on the twist at the end. I was so tired, I almost just skipped it completely. Thank you for reading my essay. Guys, I'm gonna admit something. I almost skipped it too. It was 2 a.m. I was tired as hell. I could not be dealing with that shit, bro. It was literally like Homelander when there's all the flashing lights on the screen. That was me. Painful. I've learned to love it though. Doctor of Transport says, I like the idea of the god of television. Reminds me of how in the teaser for Legend of Ruby Sunday, there was a television camera. Could that mean something? I think it does. I think we're breaking the fourth wall with this one, boys. But that's just a theory. A Doctor Who theory. Thanks for watching. Dark Ops says, thank you for your hard work toiling through the night. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. Trekman10 says, I wish I could help you find a way to enjoy the show with the midnight release. As an American, I'm super used to midnight releases for streaming shows, so I feel sorry for my British friends. Thank you, Trekman10, and your profile picture is immaculate. Digital World Archive says, it's my first time watching Doctor Who while it's airing. Congratulations, and I need to say it was an amazing experience. Since I live in Brazil, mention! The episodes aired relatively early in the night, so I got better experience than a lot of UK viewers. I hope it gets fixed in the future, please. About the episodes themselves, I felt a lot of wonder while watching. Everything that was really making me more interested and wanting to watch more. I was sure that a lot of Space Babies would be disliked by various viewers, but for some reason I got the idea. This really feels like something that would fit with the idea, and the way they all interact and what they see are amazed by it makes me really appreciate it. Like if the Doctor and Ruby were as opposite by what happened as the viewers, I would dislike it more. I get it. I think I read that wrong. My bad, guys. But seeing all the times they were positive while interacting with the babies and how much the Doctor said babies, Space Babies, really made me love the episode thanks to that feeling of wonder. Okay, I get what he means. I definitely agree. The energy is infectious. Positivity reflects positivity. If they were being skeptical and turning their nose up at it and laughing, that would take me out of it too, which is why I made such a point about sincerity in my last video, because I really think that that's the appeal to it, at least for me. Anyway, the Devil's Chord was in another extreme, but also felt right. In a way, I think that these two episodes work nicely as openings for the series because they introduce the viewers to extremes of what Doctor Who can be, and I think it works well for that. I get the idea that if someone watches these two episodes, they can already get a bit of what the wider world thinks of the series and what to expect. I feel that it was also a reason for the amount of exposition other than foreshadowing future elements that can be used. I'm really into musicals, so the usage of music felt amazing, but I can understand that many people will dislike it. W comment. Attenance says, DW fan 91's gotta have a TARDIS to be able to edit and publish full videos this fast. I'm onto him. How the fuck do they know? The GOAT posted! That's me. This reminds me of when I stayed up to 12 so I could play the new Slenderman and had to be sneaky because parents told me to go to bed. You never forget those memories, man. They stick with you forever. Space Babies was like a fairly middle of the range episode in my opinion, but the Devil's Chord, oh my days! The Devil's Chord was on top! It has Moonlight Sonata in it, which already gets point, but Jinx Monsoon is an absolute menace. Such a good costume. I love that the Doctor knows he's in a TV show. Capaldi is so back without being back. True. This era as a whole has been a net bit better than mid for me. It feels like it's spending too much time on the bright side. A bright tone is so refreshing, but bright can often be light, and I feel like these new episodes are coming with a little bit less underneath. But I know Moffat will have cooked and boom, will be goated. Boom! This era gets better by the episode, and we always have so much to look forward to, and we always have to remember how early on The Unquiet Dead came out. Series 1 was low-key ass until Dalek, so anything could still happen right now. He's kinda spitting. Thank you for the comment, Buddy Productions. Low Tier God says, I don't know if I'm the only only one, but it's crazy how little I'm caring about this new season just because of the schedule changes. It feels like such a kick in the teeth as a Brit. You can say that again, pal. I was so unexcited for these new episodes. This is the least excited I've been for new episodes ever, simply because of the schedule. I was dreading it. I've never dreaded Doctor Who before. I was dreading this. Most specifically the first week, because I knew it was going to be awful, and it was. And genuinely, I can't blame any British person who stayed up till 2 a.m. and they finished the episode and they were like, what the fuck? Because the release schedule is so damn bad, and when you actually watch those episodes at around 6 o'clock when you're meant to, it feels so much more right. It's so stupid, just more off-screen bullshit surrounding Doctor Who. True. Bring me Capaldi back ASAP, feeling very weird and sad around Doctor Who recently. A single tear. Elvis Waters 2648 says the Devil's Chord was really different. Gave me massive Pyramid of Mars vibes with that scene. Definitely agree. Love the fourth wall breaks and the wonky aspects. I think Doctor Who is at its best when it's not over-explaining but rather mystical and crazy. I definitely agree. Harry Trotter says, when could the Doctor bring back living things from the dead by just breathing? Well, here's a bit of Doctor Who lore for you. The Doctor can regenerate whenever he wants. He can do it at will, but he usually only does it when he's dying as a last resort. But he can use regeneration energy whenever he wants. So he blew a little bit of regeneration energy at the butterfly and brought it back to life. He has been shown being able to use his regeneration energy to fix other people's wounds, hands, and various other appendages. Also, Doctor Who just has superpowers. Ertl the Turtle says, Space Babies was alright. Just a mid-tier fun episode. But the Devil's Chord was great. From the piano intro music to the final scene with Maestro, I don't count the musical thing at the end, but bro, I do not know what Rusty Davies is cooking with that. The Susan name drop / mention, like, basically confirms she's coming back after not being in Tales from / of the TARDIS. If she's Ruby's mum, bro, I'ma cry. Anything else and I'll be hyped. Him scanning her DNA is making me scared. Last time he did that, it was for River's Song and she was a Time Lord. Anyways, I'm already convinced myself that the Doctor knows Ruby's mum and is just keeping secrets. I kind of think so too. And that David Tennant is going to pull a Watcher and morph with 15 to regenerate after Rusty Davies comments on Tennant not coming back. If you don't know, guys, Rusty Davies randomly came out and said, with no prompting, he just said, David Tennant is never coming back. He's never coming back, guys. He's never coming back. Which basically means he's guaranteed to come back. And I do love the theory that 14 will be 15's Watcher. Please, dear God, let it be true. Anyways, hype for the season and hype just to be watching Doctor Who. Please release one season a year. I'm begging. Also, the release time of the episodes makes no sense, even for Americans. Before I'd watch on Saturday at 1:30 p.m, good time. Now I'm watching Friday night at 7 p.m, still fine, but I'd honestly rather it be 1:30 on Saturdays. Yeah, that sounds great. RTDY, bro, please switch it back. Anyways, DW fan 91 supremacy. Rah! True. Yeah, that's pretty true.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's pretty true. That's pretty true. I mean, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's fucking true.
Road to Dawn says, I stayed up super late to watch these episodes with my brother and I couldn't sleep afterward because I was just too excited and I couldn't stop thinking about them. I felt like it was my birthday. I had such a great time. I loved these episodes. That's such a good memory. I love hearing about stuff like that. Just great stories. I thought Space Babies was far better than I expected. I'm not really sold on why they had to save the bogeyman. Like, wouldn't he still be doing the same thing as always, running around in the lower decks being scary? Nah, I think they tamed him. He's a doggo now. I don't know. I just thought that bit was weird, but the episode otherwise was a lot of fun. And then the Devil's Chord. I loved this one. So much lore here that I did not expect. I thought it was really cool that it was set in 1963. The Doctor mentioned where he was and what he was doing around that time, living with Susan down on Totter's Lane. And Jinx Monsoon absolutely killed it. Tremendous job. I cannot believe how good this episode was. Next week can't get here soon enough. True! I had some thoughts too. The Doctor scanning Ruby's DNA reminded me of two things. One was the Doctor running tests on Clara trying to figure out what was going on with her, and the other was when he was scanning Amy to see if she was pregnant or not and how she hadn't actually been with them, instead being back at Demon's Run. At this point, I'm really thinking Ruby isn't even human. Maybe she's part Time Lord, or even whatever race the Doctor is, since he's not a native Gallifreyan. Maybe they're tying Ruby into the whole timeless child thing. Ooh. Great theories. Bro opened the door early and died to Foxy. You ain't slick. Hey man, we don't have to talk about that. Maybe. With the God stuff and leaning into the timeless child, I got this feeling. We've got the embodiments of games and time. Will there be reveal or implication that the Doctor is the embodiment of time? Probably not. With the reintroduction of mystery in the Doctor's origins and all the Pantheon stuff, I started to get Cartmel Plan vibes. Ooh. I watched a dance number around 9 p.m. here in America. I struggled to get through it, and I wasn't 2 a.m. tired. And I replied, yes, I also considered skipping it. Did I not heart that comment? My bad, guys. Sometimes I click the heart button and then next time I go back and check and the heart is gone. I don't know what's going on. YouTube just broken. Ken says, Space Babies felt like a hectic, garbled, charming, warm, repetitive, messy Rusty Davies episode rather than a proper episode 1. I ended up being annoyed by it and liking it. I do understand saying it feels more like an episode 2 than episode 1. But with that said, technically it is an episode 2 because Church on Ruby Road is the new episode 1. I'm glad they finally solidified that because that was just getting weird. There's a big 90s buddy energy with Millie and the Doctor. A lot of noise and bickering and silliness between them, almost to a fault, but mostly fun. And Chuty's Doctor, I thought I already had a feel of who he was in the Christmas special, but these 2 episodes gave him the exasperated, exhausted, excited, self-talking energy of 13, which is cool actually. The time jump is really jarring for 2 episodes released together though. Yeah, I don't think the episodes were meant to be released together. In fact, I'm pretty sure in the Doctor Unleashed, for Space Babies, they said next week when referring to the Devil's Chord, implying that it was originally intended to be next week. Steve says, okay, so I don't know what it was, but after watching both episodes, I felt weird. I don't know, something's off, lol. I think a lot of people are feeling this same way. I actually liked the subplot of What's Up with Ruby more than the actual damn plot, where he was recording stuff or having a quick moment remembering something or said he can never go back to that specific point in time. And Jinx? Yeah, crazy, lol. But they did pretty alright, pretty good for a villain. I almost felt like I was watching a version of the Sarah Jane Adventures, lol, but with the damn Doctor. Bro, I'm just saying, right now, I'm working on a video right now and I've been working on it for like a week, but I'm just saying, you might be cooking. I also called out the similarities to a certain Sarah Jane Adventures episode, and I've been calling out similarities for a while now, that's all I'll say. Also, slight nitpick, lol, even though the butterfly joke was funny, but I'm guessing that he's still got some regenerating energy residue inside him to bring back the crushed Flutterby back to life. I'm guessing, because otherwise, yeah, slight nitpick, like I said, lol, nothing big. Yeah, true. New? Space Babies was a retelling of End of the World. I Can't Take You to That Church foreshadows a new Father's Day style episode. As for the Devil's Chord, was the Idiot's Lantern, but music instead of TV. No. Space Babies does homage End of the World, but they are so totally different in terms of tone, style, look, plot, themes, everything that happens in it. It's so totally different. It's not a retelling whatsoever. I Can't Take You to That Church foreshadows the new Father's Day style episode. I feel like the episode is foreshadowing it's going to be a whole lot bigger than Father's Day. And saying the Devil's Chord was like the Idiot's Lantern? No. Just no. DST chimes in saying that's the most surface level statement. True. Space Babies and End of the World have completely different plots, and if there's any similarities in episode style, that's absolutely fair as they're 19 years apart and have similar things to do. But aside from that, in a space station, there's nothing in common. The Devil's Chord and Idiot's Lantern are similar in almost no way besides Dot Companion goofily visiting the past and a camp villain. And they're 18 years apart. Yeah, this guy cooked him. This is a reference to me saying that the line that Ruby says the world didn't end in 1963 was a reference to Pyramids of Mars. This guy points out in Cold War, Clara says the world doesn't end in 1991. I totally forgot about that, and I actually rewatched Cold War recently, so that goes to show something. Aaron S says yes, it did suck. John Marston says that gave me a video idea that I'd like to see now. A complete Doctor tier list. Okay guys, let me know if you want me to do this. I think it's a great idea and I am down to do it at the end of the season, if you guys want. After season 1 ends, the floodgates are just going to be open on content, by the way. It's just going to be open season. I'm going to post on like every fucking day. But anyway, here's another one from Crikey It's Dan. I'm trying so hard to love this new era of the show, reading other comments and reviews online. I feel like I'm missing out on the fun. Yeah man, it's great here. But to me, this new era feels like a parody of Doctor Who. So many thoughts and feelings, but ultimately I feel like these have been straight bad scripts. Outside of Wild Blue Yonder, Russell has not been cooking since he came back for me. Also, I still can't connect with Chuty as the Doctor. His energy was great and I think him and Millie have a lot of chemistry and bounce off each other really well, but I still just can't buy him as the Doctor. To me, it's so easy to buy Doctors 9 through 12 and then 14 of the same person. Oh my god. Jodie and Chuty stuff, you cast them two out? Come on, bruh. That's stereotypical right there. That being said, Stephen Moffat will cook next week as he always does, and we will officially be all the way back. I appreciate you staying up to do the video, brother. Can hear the struggle in your Thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, I do think that sometimes eras of Doctor Who just aren't for people, you know? You can see other people enjoying it and you watch the episode and you're like, I just don't really like it. There have been episodes like that for me where everyone talks about how much they like it and I watch it and I'm like, it's okay. I don't think anyone's wrong for disliking it or thinking it's bad, as long as you can voice why you think it's bad, and this person did. It doesn't have to be the most precise of language. A lot of people, they don't really think about television enough because they've got more important things in their lives to think about. They don't really have the vocabulary to fully articulate their thoughts on every single element of the show, which is entirely fine, and it's the natural, that's 99% of audience goes. So I think it's fine for most people to be able to just say, I don't really like it. I don't like the vibe. I think that's such a respectable criticism, genuinely. I think just saying, I don't really like the feel of it. It might not be the most descriptive, it might not be the most constructive, but what it does tell people is that there's something that's just not working. I think my problem when it comes to fan criticism comes from when it isn't actually from the heart, when it isn't actually a genuine criticism, it is a copy-pasted criticism. These are what I hate because they are so unconstructive and you can't even tell what people mean. When someone comments the exact same thing you've heard a million times before, you can't even tell if they actually think it or if they're just saying it because someone else said it and it kind of rings true in their head, so they're just parroting what someone else said. So for me, I think comments like these are perfectly fine and valid and good, actually. I think they're genuinely good comments to have. When people don't like something, it's good for them to voice that they don't like it. But I don't like the groupthink element of it where they're just spamming the same mindless critiques over and over again. That's my problem. I feel like I noticed the nitpicks a lot more at the time of release, but I feel like they'll grow on me over time. Definitely agree. Unwanted69 says, wait, am I missing something? Have the episodes released? Okay, so something I will definitely mention is that a lot of people thought the episodes releasing a day after than they were because people were saying Saturday, Saturday, Saturday. What they really meant was Friday night because it's Saturday midnight, so it's the very start of Saturday, not the end of Saturday. I know there were multiple people who were like, wait, New Doctor Who is out already? And so that's probably why. Eric is waiting, this guy is the GOAT, the one who waits. I'm pretty mixed on Space Babies, but I do think overall I liked it as you said. I do think some of it feels unnatural. When I was watching it, I thought it gave Ten and Rose vibes a bit, at least for me. Also, go to vid so far, I gotta watch The Devil's Chord later. Ten and Rose relationship has always felt unnatural and weird. Not always, obviously, but a lot of the times for me too. I've never been a fan of the 10th Doctor and Rose. Julilu423 said, thought Space Babies was pretty naff. Felt a bit like a Chibnall script, but also not sure how I feel about the Doctor seemingly based so much of a character on the results of Chibnall era plot points, the Timeless Child, Master killing all Time Lords, as well as the bi-generation. Well, I mean, it makes sense though, because that's the stuff that just happened. Just not really a fan of any of this and was not really looking forward to a fresh start with Gawa, so the fact that these plot points are still being brought up every ep slightly contradicts this fresh approach. The episode also felt like it was about to escalate, but then nothing would really happen. Again, something I associate with the Chibnall era, lol. I just don't really know what you mean. I think the problem for me with a lot of critiques of the Chibnall era is that I watch the episodes and I just don't see them at all. Like, people have to actively point out the problems to me, and like, my natural state of being is enjoying the episodes. And if someone has to come in and they've got to pause every 2 seconds and be like, this doesn't make sense for this reason, and it's usually like something really silly and minuscule. I remember I was watching a video, they were talking about the Ghost Monument, and there's that character in the Ghost Monument who has a very like jokey backstory, very obviously jokey backstory. It was like, I was climbing up a ladder and my mum said, trustful. And so I did. She didn't catch me, and I've never been the same again. And I don't know how, but this person thought that was a serious section, and they were like, wait, they're trying to make this silly thing into a serious moment? It's like, no, dumbass, it's meant to be silly. But anyway, that's just how I feel about a lot of Chibnall era criticisms. In fact, I feel the exact same way about a lot of Chibnall era criticisms as to how I do about the criticisms of this new era, because I feel like they're really similar. I like the Chibnall era for the same reason I like this new era, because it's pretty good. Yeah, there have been problems. Yeah, I didn't really like the ending of The Giggle. I didn't like the bi-generation. I didn't really like the Timeless Child either. And yeah, you say it feels like a Chibnall script. I actually agree. I feel like this does feel like a Chibnall script because it just felt good. Overall, a pretty bad start, but all things considered better than what I expected from what is essentially a Disney legacy series being made at a period where quality in mainstream television and film media is at an all-time low. That's kind of true. It's weird, but it's kind of true. That makes me sound like a hater, but I did genuinely enjoy it overall, just don't think it's exactly good. It's fair. I don't think you're hating. I mean, maybe you are a little, but I don't think you're a hater. Space Babies is Russell T Davies' Kill the Moon. Now this guy's a fucking hater. W? Question mark? Lol, I really didn't like either episode. Space Babies I give a 5 out of 10 and Devil's Chord 3 out of 3? Goddamn. I'm really worried about the casual audience. I really don't think they would have liked either of them, especially the second episode. What do you think, guys? W or L? Thought all the fourth wall breaks, not just from Maestro, but the Doctor was strange. Do we add another to the mystery box list, or is Rusty Davies just cranking the camp up to 11 for shits and giggles? Pun intended. I got the pun. I don't know. Prestige P, that's such a good name. Prestige P says, shame this wasn't a series arc in the 80s, so the god of television could be played by John Nathan Turner. Oh my god, that would be so goddamn good. My face went, it's like the end of The Mandalorian season 2, except instead of Luke Skywalker, it's John Nathan Turner. Oh my god, that'd be fucking crazy. Kara Lou says, hey, I know it's not like I know anything about what your daily life is like for you, but surely you could, you know, take a nap or something beforehand. Damn, is it just that easy, bro? There's also a possibility of you just waiting until the next day to watch them. But I understand with the YouTube algorithm, you might not want to wait that long. You think? But it also might make your videos stand out more. There are lots of YouTubers who haven't released their reviews/reactions yet. Shrug. Well, thanks for the advice. Let's move on. Awful. I had high hopes. I have no idea what Rusty Davies is doing this time round. The show hasn't been consistently good since the Capaldi era, I'm afraid. What's going on with the musical thing? Nothing against La La Land, but I don't want to see it in Doctor Who. Bring back a darker tone and a more serious gravitas to Doctor Who, please. And so I, of course, had to reply, you're a big In the Forest of the Night fan? The Capaldi era is silly as fuck, all the time. The darker tone in the Capaldi era is barely dark whatsoever. There are so many sequences in the Capaldi era which is just laughably cheesy, far beyond anything here. But I do think that there is a big part of it that is based in nostalgia. Capaldi era was 10 years ago, and as we all know, 10 is the magic number. As soon as something's 10 years old, that's the moment everyone suddenly starts to like it. I suppose Series 8 was marketed as being a more dark series of Doctor Who. It isn't really that dark. It's a very ugly series, a very grey series. So maybe what people are wanting is muted colours? Okay. But anyway, yeah, bit of a silly comment. The Susan reference seemed more significant than the Rani one, but I reckon they're just going to be keeping name-dropping random female characters to mess with the people trying to guess who Mrs. Flood is. True. Mr. Grief says Space Babies is honestly on par with some of Rusty Davies' Series 2 scripts, specifically New Earth and Love and Monsters, even if I like that one. I must say though, the 5-month time jump was odd. I can feel Russell and crew struggling to cope with an 8-episode run. Definitely agree, because it feels like some story development is being rushed a bit. Yeah. Having 8 episodes fucking sucks. One of my favourite parts of the show is seeing the companions slowly learn to trust and admire the Doctor, and we don't get that with Ruby. Also, the Devil's Chord could have been a 2-parter, but the 8-episode limit stops that from happening. I said the same about the Giggle. I just think 45 minutes is too soon to establish a godlike being and defeat them too, but that's a minor critique, it's still a banger. 4 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, bring on Boom. Yeah, the 45-minute format sucks, we've been knowing. I will say though, the one thing that I find a little funny about this comment is the bit here where he says, specifically New Earth and Love and Monsters. Even if I like that one, he says in brackets. I think that right there is like the case study in fandom brain, where even episodes you like are not above the fandom consensus. I like Love and Monsters, okay? I'm not gonna class it in the bad episodes of Series 2. In fact, it's one of the better episodes of Series 2. But I just like how people, they hear the same thing over and over again, which is Love and Monsters bad, Love and Monsters bad, Love and Monsters bad. But they don't stop to think whether they actually like the episode, which a lot of them do, which means they keep talking about how much they hate an episode that they actually like. And that's why the fandom consensus is boring. Just be true to yourself, man. Like the episodes you want to like. Having a hive mind consensus, boring as hell. Okay, this is weird because it's 2 comments together, but they're basically talking about the same thing. I won't read both of them, but they're both comparing the episodes to New Earth and Tooth and Claw. And it's funny that they're just right next to each other like this. I will say though that Space Babies and The Devil's Chord are far better than New Earth and Tooth and Claw in my opinion. So much better. Oh, and to do with the first sentence of this first one, I felt like the dialogue was very bad in a lot of cases, particularly with Ruby and Space Babies. I kept thinking no contemporary 20-year-old is reacting like that. I don't know, felt realistic to me. Kutchjuzan says, can't lie, love Space Babies, hated The Devil's Chord. Space Babies was silly fun with a strong emotional hook. Devil's Chord had little going for it. Felt like a waste of an interesting setup, and it felt like a waste of Maestro. An interesting character in a boring, laborious story. My whole family hated it and wished the episode was more like the last couple minutes. Fair? I love these episodes. W. Okay, Makutree says, Space Babies starting the new series with a snot monster and a cosmic baby fart is a decision that only Rusty Davies would make. Lamau. As an episode, it's a 4 out of 10 IMO, but as a mission statement for how Rusty Davies is going to run the circuit, I respect it. That being said, I'll probably skip this episode and rewatches. No, come on, man. The episodes you dislike are the most important to rewatch. That's why I've seen In the Forest of the Night so many times. St. Dresden says, I'm on board for the concept of a healed Doctor, but healed doesn't mean you just drop genocide in casual conversation or break out singing and dancing. It reads as manic instead of happy. Very true. Jonathan Andrew Ross says, calling it now, Ruby is Susan. So bold prediction. Let's see how it plays out for him. Okay, I won't read this whole theory, but you can read it for yourself. W or L? What are we thinking, guys? The Devil's Chord was miles better than Space Babies. Honestly, Space Babies was just a slog that didn't know what it wanted to be. Some good moments, especially the I don't want them to see me die scene, but then others were just no. For the Devil's Chord, I benefited from being really into music and theatre. Maestro's whole character was a vibe, although I won't lie, the climax dragged a bit. I especially loved the references to the Hartnell Doctor. The Doctor not knowing whether she died with Gallifrey peeved me a little bit, I can't lie, as I recall her being left in 22nd century London. Really good music in the music Conundrum at the end, but seriously, Russell, I will be the new lyricist for free. You're very clearly struggling right now. I mean, for the ending number. I understand the songs at the start were bad on purpose. I think what Rusty Davies is implying that with the Time War, it wasn't just that Gallifrey was destroyed, it was that a shockwave was sent out through the whole galaxy that killed all of the Time Lords. At least that's how I read it. Maybe I'm wrong. Scarif says, also, I just want to get my theory out before it's revealed. The 13th Doctor is Ruby's mom. So bold prediction, let's see how it plays out for him. Or could be a space baby and Mrs. Flood is actually her mom. Whatever floats your boat. Now that's a W. Thank you so much, Scarif1979. I love your username. And thank you to Jesus Christ for leaving another comment on the video. I love this guy. I thought episode 2 was better than Space Babies. The only thing keeping me interested in Space Babies was its monster. Always loved the whole sympathy for the beast type deal. Bro's in character. And I love the Devil's Chord up until the final dance number. One fourth ball breaking too many. I honestly felt like it was a parody of itself and it really diminished what I considered a great episode. At the moment, I don't quite feel Millie and Ncuti work well together. I think they're both good performance-wise, but there's no contrast between the two. Both are bubbly and energetic, which doesn't quite provide the interest that is needed for our characters. That's perfectly fair. I genuinely think that's perfectly fair. Flippant says, I think we're off to a great start and I'm hyped for the rest of the season, especially the next 2 episodes. Let's go! Yeah, I am so hyped for 73 Yards. That's by far the one I am hyped for. Just looks so good, man. Rogue Renegade says, do a face reveal. Okay. Sasquatch212 says, can't lie, I really hated these 2 episodes. Space Babies was a 3 out of 10 and Devil's Chord a 1? This episode. 1? This episode. A 1? For me, it was as bad as episodes like Sangara Conundrum, Arachnids in the UK, and Battle of Ranskor Avkolos. Sangara Conundrum isn't even that bad. Arachnids in the UK is like a 3 or 4 out of 10. Battle of Ranskor Avkolos is an episode that makes me feel sad. Sangara Conundrum is a fine episode. It's like a 5 or 6 out of 10. Devil's Chord at 1. Almost certainly in the top 5 worst episodes of the show. Damn, couldn't stand Maestro. One of the worst villains in the show. The acting was awful, so disappointing. Really wanted to like these, just didn't feel like Doctor Who to me. A 1 out of 10, by the way. I really do feel like there needs to be new blood in the show. A new showrunner who grew up in the modern era, maybe. I volunteer as tribute. Russell T Davies, hit me up, man. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. This is serious. Hashtag DWFan91 for showrunner. Plaster it all over the comments, guys. The Aluxian says, when the Deus Ex Machina of your episode is a giant fart, you can pretty much count that as a colossal failure. Space Babies will go down as one of the worst episodes in the show's history, alongside Fear Her, and a musical episode that was about as successful as the musical episode of Brave New Worlds. I don't know what that is. Awful. It's like Rusty Davies wants to finish off what Chibnall started to destroy, driving the stake through the... Guys, you guys are so over dramatic. God damn. Lighten up, mate. Jesus Christ. We're not allowed a bit of fun. Just not allowed fun. Why do people think their negative opinions will go down in history all the time? This shit will go down in history. To be fair though, I've used the same expression. Doxy says, I really enjoyed Space Babies. The setting reminds me of Ark in Space. It reminds me of that too, with a touch of End of the World wrapped together with a pro-choice message about the neglect governments have towards children despite enforcing their birth, which love its compassion so much. And Teddy Bite, this is a message from the Discord server, says, I'ma call it now, the one who waits is a stand-in for the fans who can't deal with the downtime between seasons and the Toy Maker or another one of those gods turned Doctor Who into a TV show. Piggybacking off of my theory that Ruby is a character. I feel like I'm being called out here. And one final one to end on from the King Kyle Reese. Let's hear what he has to say. Space Babies. Okay, I don't really mind the exposition. I just love how Ruby walks into the TARDIS and the Doctor just says he's adopted straight away. I found that quite funny. I hope they don't always bring up the last of the Time Lords line. The butterfly effect thing happened the way I thought it was going to. People are complaining about the Doctor bringing it back to life, but it's clearly regeneration energy in my opinion. I like the shot of the TARDIS in the vortex and then flying into the space station. I don't really know why they had the TARDIS crash inside though. I love the Doctor's freedom speech. As for the Space Babies, overall I like them. Their mouths when they talk looked a bit weird, but not really a big deal. The Bogeyman isn't the most interesting villain. You could guess what the twist was going to be. It was a very funny moment when Ruby realizes. I completely missed Susan Twist on first viewing. Interested to see who she is. I like Nanny Jocelyn. She had some funny moments, but my favorite thing about this episode is the dynamic between the Doctor and Ruby. I'm really liking their dynamic and hope it continues for the rest of the season overall. I'd still stick with my original 7.5 rating. Good first episode. I definitely agree. And the Devil's Chord, I like Maestro playing the theme tune at the start. I love the Doctor and Ruby 60s outfit, love the 60s vibe, love that we got first Doctor and Susan reference. Should have had that on my bingo card, but what surprised me is that we didn't get a Susan reference. We got a whole conversation about it. Maybe this won't lead to anything and it's just what the Doctor is a lot more open, but I don't know, maybe Susan is going to be involved somehow. I think she is. I thought theory, which which most probably definitely not going to happen. I was thinking if Varda Sethu, who is the next companion, is playing a new Susan, that definitely won't happen. But if it does, I called it. Oh my god, that'd be crazy. I love Varda Sethu, guys. I love her. Okay, so on Maestro, I do think they're a little over the top, but I still really like them. I like the way the Doctor reacted to them. We got a by generation reference, which to me disproved 15 being the 14th future theory, at least for me. Okay, so this is something we talked about in the Discord, which is that the line, the Toymaker tore his soul in half, kind of goes against everything that was said about by generation in the episode, the original episode, the giggle, I mean. And I don't know, I still kind of like the ideas that we had there, but also it is very confusing and by generation still makes no sense. Did it need to be there? Not really, but I still liked it. I'd say this episode is either a 7.5 or an 8 for me. I'd say it's slightly better than Space Babies, but both still good episodes. The next 2 weeks are the episodes I'm most excited for, being Boom and 73 Yards, so hopefully I'm not disappointed. Thank you so much for the comment, and thank you to everyone who is involved in the making of this video. Shout out to all of you. It was amazing going through all the comments. It's amazing communicating with the whole fandom, and as Carl Reese says, I cannot wait for not only Boom, but also 73 Yards. Oh my god, they're gonna be so good. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh my goodness, what a behemoth of a video, and I cannot wait for next week. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be amazing, guys. Boom is so close. I mean, being real, might have already even come out. I hope not. I hope I got this out in time before Boom. I've got so many videos in the works now, people. You have no idea. So if you want to say tap 10, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe. I know the video's already out, but why not leave your own thoughts in the comments below on what you thought about Space Babies and the Devil's Chord. It's fun, man. We're all just having fun with the community. And if you want to help support the channel, you can click the join button below to gain access to a billion perks and benefits, including access to the Discord server, exclusive members only content, and access to all of the live reactions to each episode of the new series. Thank you to the members: Just Tim, Teddy Bite, Andrea Lee, Kustretch, Zach Pollock, Ertle the Turtle, Casual Log, Colin Savage, Tom, Oz Baxter, Manny, Someone's Best Friend, Connor Bell, Eric is Waiting, Kyle Reese, Snurly, KCKC, Doctor of Transport, Poison Cupcake, Flippant, Rouge Argentine, James Holly, Dr. Skelly, Eve, Jeanette, Ponga, Exception, 6th Doctor Fan 84, and Kyle Reese. And thank you to the King, Kyle Reese. And with all that said, I will see you in the next one.